Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to my movie vlog. My name is John Campea, and this is one of our kind of regular companion videos to the John Campea Show and Open Mic. Of course, every day on the John Campea Show in the morning and on Open Mic in the afternoons, we take live questions, but sometimes we don't have time to get to all of the live questions, so I make these companion videos. I take all those ones we didn't get asked on air and bring them to these companion videos so that if you send in a live question, you know that your question is going to get answered. So, let's jump right into it today. And the first one up is from Edgar Navarro, who writes, "Sorry in advance for not watching tomorrow's show since I'll be celebrating my 23rd birthday. I'll have no cell reception out in Eisenhower State Park." Well, don't worry about being here today, Edgar. You have a great time, and happy birthday from me, and I'm sure all the other film fans here watching as well. So happy birthday, dude. Next one comes to us from IanNguyenDo, who writes, "What advice do you have for writing a first script?" Well, the best advice I have for writing any kind of writing, whether it's a script or a novel or an article or an essay, whatever, is just keep writing. What will always get stuck, but don't sit there and stay stuck until you come up with the perfect idea. Just write. There's a great analogy that people used to use, and it's this. You can't steer a car that's standing still. You can't steer a car that's standing still. The car has to actually be moving for you turning the steering wheel to have any effect, right? The car's got to be moving. So even if you don't have the right idea, just write. Just write. Just blah. Just let it come out. Just keep writing. Just keep writing. Just keep writing. You can go back and revise it. And you can go back and change it later. But the best advice I have for writing is just write. Even if the next thing in your head is just a stupid idea, just write it. Because you can, once you get into the process of writing, you can start to steer yourself and you can revise it and do whatever. But if you're a car in park, you can't steer. You'll always be in the same position no matter which way you turn the steering wheel. Just keep writing. Even if it's the dumbest thing in the world, whatever stupid idea comes to your head, just write. Keep writing, because when you're in motion, that's when you're going to be able to actually start moving forward, is when you're in motion. So that's my best advice for writing. Okay, next one comes to us from Haskell420, who writes, "Hey, John, good afternoon. I was 5 when Star Wars came out and first saw it at an RKO Drive In and next night at an RKO theater." I've never heard of those, to be honest. Our local one-screen theater got it 7 months later and stayed in theater for 6 months at $1.25 at night, 99 cents during the day. And that kind of is a great example about how films have changed, right? No matter how good a movie is, it's not staying in a movie theater for 6 months. It's just not happening. You also today couldn't get movies at those prices. You just couldn't. Forget inflation. There's just a radical increase in prices. This is one of the great examples of why I say you can't just take inflation into consideration when trying to understand box office. Just look at this. This is a totally different era. It used to be an era when a movie could stay in theater 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, or more, up to a year. That's not the movie world today. There's just too many films that come out, too much of a cycle going on. It's just a different time. And that's why I always say when people try to talk to me about, oh, we should take inflation into consideration for talking about box office. No, you don't. Because if you do, you got to take all these other factors that are major contributing factors into consideration as well. And that's just too much. So yeah, that's why exactly what you're saying there, Haskell, is one of the reasons why I don't think we need to take or should take inflation into consideration, because it means you're ignoring too many other major factors. All right, next one. Degoto1 writes, "Fantastic Beasts trailer dropping tomorrow." This is one that came in yesterday on Open Mic. Dropping tomorrow. Were you a fan of the first one? Okay, so obviously this was from yesterday. The Fantastic Beasts 2, The Crimes of Grindelwald, dropped this morning at about 9 o'clock this morning Pacific Standard Time is when the trailer dropped. Was I a fan of the first one? I liked the first one. I liked it. I'm not a major Harry Potter fan, but I like a certain number of films quite a bit. And I enjoyed the first Fantastic Beasts. I wasn't thrilled with it. I wasn't jumping up and down about it. I didn't go to the theater and see it 4 times, but I saw it twice. I liked it. Gotta tell you though, I really like this trailer. I really like the trailer. It felt, pardon the pun, it felt magical. It felt really, really magical. It felt good. For the first time, like the other one didn't so much do this, but this really felt like it was capturing that magic of the Harry Potter world. You know what I mean? And seeing Dumbledore, Jude Law playing Dumbledore, which is a terrific piece of inspired casting. Getting Jude Law to play Dumbledore was a terrific piece of inspired casting. I love that a lot. I thought the trailer was fantastic. It gave us enough of an insight. It gave us enough hints. It gave us enough clues. It gave us enough of a peek of stuff to get us excited without really giving too awful much away. Although I am curious why Dumbledore says in it, I can't be the one to confront Grindelwald, you. Why? Why can't Dumbledore confront Grindelwald? We're going to find that, I'm sure, in the movie. Or maybe those of you guys who know the books are already screaming at your monitor at me. Because in the books, it explains it already, and I just never knew. All right, let's move on. The next one comes to us from Jeremiah J., who writes, just wanted to let you know you never cease to continue to bring on the filthy every episode. Well, thank you so much, Jeremiah. I appreciate that, and I'm glad you enjoy the show, and I'm glad you're along for the ride and being a film fan with us. Thanks for being here, man. All right, next one comes to us from SP Latest, who writes, really hope the MCU gets Spider-Man back to basics after Infinity War. Well, listen, I'm not going to go on a big spiel again. You guys know how I feel. I love Spider-Man Homecoming. I love Tom Holland as Spider-Man. I love what they're doing. The one thing I do not like is that they decided that Spider-Man wasn't cool enough. We have to make him Iron Man Jr. Give him an Iron Man suit. Yep. Hey, once they did the Iron Spider thing in the comics, let's do that in the movies. As if Spider-Man isn't cool enough on his own. Yes. So I'm with you. I'm hoping that once we get past Infinity War, I hope there's a scene in it in Avengers 3 or Avengers 4 when Peter goes, this isn't me. And realizes I don't need this stuff. This is just in my way. And gets rid of it and just gets back to his Spider-Man costume. And it's just Spider-Man. That's what I hope. Okay, let's go on. H. James writes, what's better, Jessica Jones Season 2 or Iron Fist? Jessica Jones Season 2. I did not like Jessica Jones Season 2 at all, but it was much better than Iron Fist. I mean, anything is much better than Iron Fist. The only thing I can think of that might not be better than Iron Fist is maybe the Inhumans. And that's pushing it. But yeah, definitely Jessica Jones is better than Iron Fist. Or Jessica Jones Season 2 is definitely better than Iron Fist. Denmar95 writes, any info on Edge of Tomorrow 2 and enjoyed the first one? I love the first one. Stupid title. They never should have gotten rid of the original title, which is All You Need Is Kill. Which was a fabulous title. But Edge of Tomorrow, terrible title, terrible marketing campaign, terrific movie. The last I heard was in January. The director said that him, Tom Cruise, and Emily Blunt, the three of them have to agree that they have a great script. They said they've got a period of time blocked out to shoot the movie if they're going to shoot the movie. He said, we're just frantically trying to get a story together that we feel like we can do. And the director, I remember saying something very, very key. He said, I don't need this movie. Tom Cruise doesn't need this movie. Emily Blunt doesn't need this movie. We're only going to do this movie if it's something we're really, really excited about and we get a story together that we're really excited about. Now, that was in January. They said they had a period of time blocked off to shoot the movie if they can get the story right and get excited about it. But that was months ago. And I still haven't heard anything new about it since. So I'm starting to doubt that this movie's even going to happen. I'm starting to doubt the movie's even going to happen. So anyway, that's the last I heard about it. If we hear any more, we'll certainly talk about it on the show. If you hear any more, make sure you share it with us as well. But yeah, I'm with you. I really like the first one. The first one was great. Bomb Squad writes, after the success of Felipe the Sentient Dancing Microphone, would you like to see John Campea direct a Star Wars movie? And isn't that the way it goes? The moment one good movie comes out, everybody then asks, what do you think about that director directing a Star Wars movie? It's always the question. Whenever a good movie comes out, the next inevitable question is, what do you think about that guy directing a Star Wars movie? What do you think about that woman directing a Star Wars movie? What do you think about that person? It always comes down to that. It's just ridiculous. My answer is always the same. Hey, if it's a good director, sure, I'm all for it. That's always the same answer. All right. Next up, Squad also asks again, do you think we will see Captain and Tony side by side in Infinity War, or wait until Avengers 4 for that? Hashtag Team Daryl. Nice reference there to the short film, to the little Thor stuff. I don't think we're going to see Tony and Cap side by side. If we do, I got a feeling it'll be at the very end and something that leads into Avengers 4. But my gut instinct right now, which could be way off. This is not based on any insider information. This is just me speculating. I don't think we're going to see Tony and Steve together in this movie. Unless it's a flashback. I think we're going to have to wait until Avengers 4 to see the two of them together again. Because I don't think they're going to work out all their differences. Even though, I contend all the time, I get in debates about this a lot. I contend that by the end of Civil War, Steve and Tony, for the most part, have kind of forgiven each other. Like, look, Steve writes that letter to Tony at the end. And it looks like Tony receives it pretty well. Now, clearly, they still have to get face-to-face and they need to work out their problems. But I've always contended that it seemed like the end of Civil War, the very end of Civil War, took them some major steps toward working out their issues. And, I mean, clearly they're still going to have major disagreements, but it seems like they were over their hatred for each other at that point, and that they were just mad. But I don't know. We'll have to wait and see how they decide to play that out. All right. Next one comes to us from Ethan Hunt, who writes, "Hey, John, can a season 2 of Iron Fist with good writing save the series, or has the damage been done? Thanks." Look, no matter how bad something is, we always remember what's the latest thing. If they do put out an Iron Fist season 2, and I don't know if they are. For all I know, they've already shot it. I can't remember. To be honest, I've tuned out any Iron Fist news, to be honest with you. But if they do an Iron Fist season 2, and it's spectacular, like it's Breaking Bad, Battlestar Galactica good, then yeah, people will get over Iron Fist season 1. They'll get over it. I mean, I really didn't like Rush Hour. Rush Hour 2 came out spectacular. The first Star Trek movie was pretty bad. Star Trek 2 Wrath of Khan came out spectacular. It's what's latest, what's the newest. And my question is, can they do that with Iron Fist? I don't know that they can. But speaking theoretically, if they did put out an Iron Fist season 2 and it crushed it, then yeah, I think people would get over Iron Fist, myself included. We would get over Iron Fist season 1 because, hey, that's what's in front of us right now. Is this new one thing, and this new thing is great. Don't punish a new thing for what the old thing did. If the new thing's good, call it good. Also, if the old thing is fantastic and the new thing is bad, call it bad. Don't call it good just because the old thing was good. So, yeah, I think people would get over it if it's spectacular. I just don't know that I have any faith that they can actually do that. All right, let's move on to the next one. And the next one comes to us from Mr. Film, who writes, "Why do TV shows use different directors?" Okay, that's a great question because you often see that in TV shows. A director will direct one episode of a season, and every episode will have like a different director, or maybe a director will like do 2 episodes of a season or whatever. Why do they do it that way? Now, I'm not in television, but it seems to me that the reason they do that is because if you're a director and you know what episode you're directing, you know your story, every episode is like a little movie. It's like a half movie, right? So you have tons of work to do to get ready to do that episode. All right? I'm guessing you got months of work to do to get ready for that one episode. It's been written, the actors are prepped, everything's there. Now you as the director have to figure out how you're going to shoot this whole thing and put it together. That's a tall order. Because it's basically 1/2 or 1/3 of a movie, right? So it seems to me it's just logistically makes most sense to have, okay, we got 12 episodes this season, and we're going to piece out so all the directors can start preparing for their episodes, to start doing what it is they're going to be doing, right? That's key. I just don't think there's time. Now, we've seen examples where somebody has directed an entire season of a series. I don't know how they did it, but it just seems that it's most efficient, most effective to have a director just focus on the one episode they're doing, put all their energy and effort for a couple of months into how they're going to block that out, how they're going to shoot it, how they're going to piece it together, how they're going to edit it, all that kind of crap, and following the vision of the writers, because the writers are ultimately the ones in charge. It's different in TV than it is in movies. In movies, the director's in charge. In TV, the writers are in charge. So anyway, that's just probably the most common sense reason about why you see directors often just direct one episode a season, maybe 2, and then direct another episode the following season, why they switch directors so often. All right. BK11648 writes, "Given the amount of humor in Deadpool 1, could Deadpool 2 suffer from the same problems that comedy sequels suffer from?" Well, it's not just comedy sequels. It's all sequels suffer. Like, a lot of people will often ask, why do sequels are sequels often worse than the first movie? Because it's almost impossible to make a good movie. And when you make a good movie, it really stands out, and your follow-up it's not likely to live up to the first one. We've seen exceptions to that, obviously, but it's difficult to make one good movie, let alone two. So could Deadpool run? Deadpool will definitely face those challenges. Deadpool 2 will definitely face those challenges. I have a lot of faith in the writers. I have a lot of faith in Ryan Reynolds. I have a lot of faith. I mean, Fox clearly knew how to let the Deadpool guys run Deadpool. I've got a lot of faith in them. So I think it's going to turn out great. But don't fool yourself. It could be a disaster. Deadpool 2 could absolutely be a disaster, no matter how much we love the first one. It will face those challenges. But I have faith they're going to be able to overcome those challenges. That's just me. All right. Jai CSC writes, what's your most recent movie in your top 10 list? Oh, most recent movie to make it onto my all-time top 10 list is probably the Lord of the Rings series. On my top 10 list, I count the Lord of the Rings series, Fellowship of the Ring, Two Towers, Return of the King. I count it all as kind of like one movie. It's Return of the Lord of the Rings. That's probably the most recent one. And the first one came out in 2001, so it's like 17 years. The most recent film to make it in my top 10 is like 17 years old. A little bit younger than that if you want to time it by Return of the King. So yeah, that's probably the next most recent one on my all-time top 10 is probably Shawshank Redemption, which was 94. Shawshank Redemption is probably the next one to make it on, the next youngest film to make it onto my top 10 all-time list at 94. I'd have to sit down and look at the list and check all the years, but that's how I think it works out. Good question. All right, we move on and we go back to Squad, who writes, AMC leaked that Infinity War tickets come out Friday. Do you think it'll break Fandango, similar to Star Wars? Will you buy yours on Friday? Well, I have not seen that leak. I've heard whispers. I don't know that that's true. Maybe it is true. I'm just saying I don't know. If they do come out on Friday, do I see them breaking sites like Fandango and AMC's ticketing and stuff like that? I don't think so. I don't think you're going to see these sell a lot of tickets. I don't think they're going to sell like the Force Awakens kind of tickets. I don't think it's going to break them for a couple of reasons. Number one is the fact that I don't think it's going to sell as many tickets initially as like the Force Awakens did. But number two is, since the Force Awakens happened, all these ticketing places learned what their weaknesses were. We learned what their vulnerabilities were. Learned what happened. Hey, if we get this much flooded of ticket requests, our system goes down. Let's fix that. So, no, I don't think we're going to see the same systems going down phenomena that we've seen before for two reasons. One, it's not going to sell as many tickets in advance as The Force Awakens did. But number two, these places learned the lessons that they learned from The Force Awakens with all the system crashes. I believe they've got better systems now that can handle more traffic. So I don't think we're going to see that same type of thing. So for a practical reason and for a technical reason. But yeah, if they do come out on Friday, I'll probably buy tickets for Friday. Now, I'll probably see it twice before it opens in theaters, but I'm still going to buy my opening night ticket. Like, I saw Black Panther 3 times before it opened in theaters, but I still had my opening night tickets. And I'm going to do the same thing for Avengers Infinity War for sure. I did the same thing for Justice League. I saw Justice League, I believe I saw it 3 times before it even opened in theaters, and I still had my opening night tickets for Justice League. Anuj writes, hey John, big fan from India. Thank you so much, man. Which combo do you think boasts the better body of work, Scorsese DiCaprio or Scorsese De Niro? Well, there would have been a long period of time, that I would have said Scorsese De Niro. But as the years have gone on, and as Scorsese made more films with DiCaprio, I actually think when you take a step back, I think I'm of the belief that the Scorsese DiCaprio body of work probably outweighs the Scorsese De Niro. Yeah, I think I'm probably there now. I think Wolf of Wall Street kind of pushed it over the edge for me. So, yeah, I'm going to go Scorsese DiCaprio on that one. And a lot of you guys will disagree for totally good reasons. Scorsese De Niro is amazing, but jump down to the comment section. Let me know what you guys think. All right, next one comes to us from Alan Gonzalez, who writes, thoughts on the movie Wonder? I just saw it and I was amazed with it. I am curious. This is like the third time I've been asked about Wonder in the last 2 weeks. Why all of a sudden am I getting questions about Wonder? I don't get it. Anyway, I adored Wonder. I thought Wonder was great. Not necessarily Best Picture nominated great, but really, really good. I enjoyed it. It's endearing. It's touching. The story is really good. The narrative flow is great. The performances are fantastic. I quite enjoy the movie. So yeah, Wonder gets a big thumbs up from me. Squad writes, director said that New Mutants was always PG-13. Yeah, I heard him say that. He said basically that New Mutants is going to be the edgiest, hardest core PG-13 movie ever. And look, there's a lot I keep saying this. There's so much you can do in a PG-13 movie. There's an awful lot you can get away with in a PG-13 movie. So I don't doubt it. And plus the fact that it's going to be geared a lot towards teenagers, it makes sense that they would go PG-13, and I think it will be raw. I think it will be edgy. I think it'll be very indie horror kind of feel to it. So I'm just really curious. Look, this isn't like Deadpool. New Mutants doesn't need to be rated R. It just doesn't. So I'm curious to see what they've got in mind for this. Next up, Micah T writes, over under 10%, Banner and Hulk get separated somehow and become two different characters during Infinity War. I'm going to take the under on that. Clearly, there is comic precedence for something like that happening, but I'm going to take the under. I don't think that's the direction they're going to go with this. I think they're going to keep them one character, and we're not going to see them split. If you set it at like 4%, I might take the over at 4%, but at 10%, I'm going to take the under on that. I do not think we're going to see Banner and Hulk split and become two separate entities. I don't think it's going to happen. All right, next one. Phil Lee, right? Oh, by the way, before I get into it, speaking of Hulk and all that kind of stuff, you know what? I was home waiting for Ann to get home last night because we were going to, shoot out and go grab dinner. We had a date night last night. Anyway, as I'm waiting for her to get home, I can't remember what network I popped on, but I put on TV and Age of Ultron was just starting. So I'm like, I haven't watched this in a while. I'll watch Age of Ultron. You know what? It's better than I remember. It's better. I found myself watching going, oh yeah, Ultron's good. I like Ultron. I like Age of Ultron. I mean, it was a big step down from the first Avengers, but yeah, I really liked Ultron. So I'll watch it. And I'm watching like, this is really good. I'm liking this a lot more than I remember. I mean, it's not as good as the first Avengers per se, but I was really digging it, and it just reminded me of that scene, because the last bit I got to see, I think before we ultimately left, was just after Ultron became sentient, and he got the Maximoff twins together, and they were starting to do things. You know what? The last scene I watched before I had to split was on Ulysses Claw's ship. And a lot of you forget that Claw was introduced in Ultron, not in Black Panther. Anyway, but asking about Bruce and Hulk, it reminded me of this great scene. This great scene. I forgot how really good the scene was. And it's in Stark Tower, and they're having their party because they just got Loki's staff back. And they're having their party, and Bruce walks up to the bar, and Natasha's behind the bar. Black Widow's behind the bar, rubbing a glass or whatever. And, Bruce says, what's on your mind? And she goes, oh, a fella did me wrong. And he's like, oh, no, what is it? And she goes, well, he's really under my skin. I know a lot of guys, and they're all about getting ready for the fight. But this guy, he's all about avoiding the fight because he knows he'll win. And I'm just listening to it, and I'm like, that is fucking awesome dialogue. That is awesome dialogue. And I just forgot just how good dialogue Joss Whedon wrote in that movie. I keep forgetting about that, guys. Sorry. I forgot about how good Whedon wrote his dialogue for that movie. And that scene, as, Widow is talking to Bruce and talking about how, she's it's the first time she's indicating that she's interested in Bruce because he's so different. He's the nerd. But he's the guy who wants to avoid the fight because he knows he'll win. Something so great about that dialogue. I'm sorry, I know you're not asking me about Age of Ultron, but I'm going off on this rabbit hole of Age of Ultron because I really enjoyed watching. I'm going to finish watching it. It's probably, I can't today, I can't tomorrow. Maybe the next day I'm going to sit down for about an hour and watch the rest of it. But yeah, I enjoyed it more than I remember. I really liked it. Okay, let's move on now to the next question. Phil Lee writes, Do you think The Rock needs a catchphrase like Arnold's "I'll be back"? Well, I mean, come on. The Rock is loaded with catchphrases. Whether it's "The Rock likes pie, not strudel," or whether it's "Can you smell what The Rock is cooking?" or whether it's, travel on down to SmackDown Hotel or something like that. He's got tons of catchphrases. Should he start using those in his movies? I don't know. I think he's a little too along now in his movie career to start the idea of a catchphrase. I think he's too far into his movie career at this point to start a catchphrase. So I don't think he needs it. But I see then Phil jumps in a little bit down. It doesn't matter what you think. Good follow-up on that. Ben Rayner writes, I hope Deadpool makes a joke about a purple cable. I've got a feeling they will, because one of the reasons I think they're doing reshoots right now is to add in some Black Panther and Avengers Infinity War humor. I think we're going to see a load of it, and I think there's definitely going to be many jokes about Josh Brolin and Thanos. I think we're going to see at least, I'll put the over-under at 4.5. I'll put the over-under at 4.5 jokes about comparing, alluding to Josh Brolin and Thanos. 4.5. That's the number I'm setting. You take the over, the under on that. All right. ZOMG Ruler writes, John, did you hear the Greg Silverman interview? Nope. No, I'm not quite sure which interview you're talking about. Yeah, guys, listen, when you're writing in these questions, give some context, because now, I just read the questions like, I don't know what you're talking about. You got to give some context. Like maybe you said the Greg Silverman interview regarding, that would help a lot if you guys did that. Last couple of questions here, then we're done for the day. Matthew Mendez writes, do you believe the future of the MCU will have more team-ups with multiple A-list characters such as Civil War, Spider-Man Homecoming with Iron Man, Thor Ragnarok with Hulk, etc.? Yeah, probably, because this is one of the problems of a shared cinematic universe thing where there's 5,000 heroes running around, where there's a superhero on every single corner, is that it's very difficult not to do it with a team-up. I don't know how you do it without a team-up. I think those are going to become rare because you're always going to be getting the question, well, why didn't Ant-Man call this guy? Why didn't Falcon call this? Why didn't Captain America call this guy? Like even now, like the tons of questions about where was Captain America during Black Panther? Why wasn't Captain America there in Black Panther? Well, it's like, and that's one of the problems with one of the drawbacks of the shared cinematic universe. And I'm a fan of the shared cinematic universe, but that is one of the drawbacks. But yes, I do think we're going to get more and more of those as we move forward. All right. Esther Cuenca writes, what would Infinity War have to clear at the worldwide box office to be a super hit? $1.2 billion. Look, you hit $1.2 billion, you are a super hit. You're a super hit. I mean, that's just the way it is. If it hits $1 billion, it's a big, massive hit. But if you want to call it a super hit, it's got to cross 1.2. There are going to be some people that say, no, it's got to hit $2 billion to be a super hit. No, that's nonsense. That's just tune those people out. That's nonsense. As long as it crosses like the $1 billion, $1.2 billion range, it's a bona fide super hit. Now you're talking about amongst the highest grossing movies of all time. So 1.2, if it clears that, then it's just ridiculous to not acknowledge that it's a super hit if it crosses 1.2 billion. Let's see. And the final question comes to us from Torrin Davis, who writes, what happened to Robert Downey Jr. and the Sherlock Holmes movies? Yeah, they've been talking for a long time. I know Guy Ritchie is obviously a little busy with Aladdin. So Guy Ritchie, who of course directed the first two Robert Downey Jr. Sherlock Holmes movies, Guy Ritchie's a little bit busy making Aladdin with Will Smith. I'm very excited to see what he does with that. I'm a big fan of Guy Ritchie. And they've talked a lot about over the years about wanting to do it. Now, it's funny you mentioned this because Robert Downey Jr. just recently was interviewed and asked about that. And he said he's still up for doing it. Like, if they can get the script together and they can do it, he would like to do it. Which I don't blame Robert Downey Jr. because outside of the MCU, he doesn't have a lot going on. And I'm sure he would love to have another franchise still going for when his MCU days are done or when he's doesn't have an MCU movie going on. But he just recently mentioned he still wants to do it, but there's nothing firm at this point. Nothing firm that we can confirm. It's like, oh, yes, this is coming any day now. All right, guys, that will do it for this special companion video, getting to all the live questions you guys sent in. So, guys, listen, I just want to make sure that you know, if you're watching the John Campea Show live or you're joining us for Open Mic Live and you send in a live question and we don't get around to it, I want you to always be rest assured we will get around to it here, just maybe on a separate video and stuff like that. Thanks a lot for joining me, guys. Jump down, as always, into the comment section. Leave your thoughts and opinions on things down there. And listen, guys, if you got a Twitter account, make sure you're following me on Twitter. Just jump on Twitter and follow me at John Campea. That'll do it for me, guys. Thanks so much for joining me. My name's John Campea, and until my next video, bye-bye.